All right, everybody. It's Julie Santiago here. Welcome, Laurie. Please, everybody, welcome the beautiful Laurie, who's joining me, who's one of our amazing clients, one of our amazing graduates. And we're going to jam on Laurie's incredible journey. So first, I just want to say, Laurie, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you and your journey, and I'm excited that you get to share it with everybody today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, totally. So just for all of you who are watching live, of course, please just say hello. And if you're listening to us, you can't see me right now, but I've got my little baby down here. He's kind of hiding and nursing in this moment. Of course, he would wake up from the nap right when we start, but we're just going to trust the process, and he's here. Laurie, we were just jamming on, well, first, why don't you just introduce yourself? So tell everybody a little bit about what you do, just home life, your kiddos, and what led you to work with us.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Laurie Roberts. I am 43, and I am a single mom of 3 beautiful kiddos. I have an 8-year-old son, a 13-year-old daughter, and a 15-year-old daughter. I also have a 22-year-old young woman who lives with me and helps me at home as my nanny, who's kind of like my 4th child. I work in the international insurance space and manage the North America regional business for my company. Been in that space for a very long time and love what I do. I'm very passionate about it, but also have other passions as well. And I think for me, this program has been truly a life-changing program. When I discovered Julie and the Awaken Your Life program, I was really at a point where I was just completely burned out. I was working 15, 16 hours a day, trying to juggle the needs of 3 very unique children. I have a daughter with a very serious chronic health issue that is very demanding. I've married and divorced 3 times, and also have had a series of complications around managing through toxic and abusive ex-husbands. So there was a lot that I was trying to manage, trying to keep everything even, peaceful, positive, leading my family, leading my team. But meanwhile, I was suffering and just exhausted and almost ready to just chuck it all because I didn't know how to manage this overwhelm and all of the demands on myself. And so really just out of a moment of desperation and searching online, I saw a video of Julie's, and everything that she said just hit me like this wave of recognition that, this could be it for me. This could be the answer of figuring all of out and how to manage my and everything that was overwhelming me. And so after my first discovery call, I just knew that this was going to be my chance to save my life. It was this or just become completely crushed by the weight of it all.
I remember your discovery call because I got the opportunity to do it with you. Yeah, and I think he was actually in my belly at that point, in my womb. Do you hear bad echo, Laurie?
I do hear bad echo.
Yeah. Okay, let me just unplug my things. I think it's me.
Is that better? Oh.
Yeah.
So much better. Yeah. So much better. Okay. So I remember your discovery call. I remember it so clearly. I was literally sitting at the desk looking out this window. This little guy was in my body still. And I just remember us talking about your kids and us talking about, your recent separation and divorce and the overwhelm that you were really feeling and how intense it was for you. And you just said something that was really interesting. You just said it was either this or I was going to get crushed by the weight of all of the responsibilities in my life. So you're a single mom of 3. You obviously have a lot. You were traveling all the time. I remember you saying that you weren't really present for your kids, right? Like some of them, getting older not completely able to enjoy these last years with them, wanting to reestablish your family. So let's just paint the picture, because I know that there's so many women who, whether they're, single mamas or, partnered mamas, or women who are mothers or not, who feel that I'm going to get crushed by the weight of the responsibilities of my life. Can you just talk a little bit about how that was showing up for you when you found us? And then let's talk a little bit about what's shifted now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was experiencing a whole host of physical ramifications of the stress and the overwhelm. I was getting all sorts of chronic infections. I had chronic yeast infections. I was getting chronic urinary infections. I was on 3 antibiotics for skin rashes. I was getting these horrible skin rashes. I couldn't sleep. I felt like I couldn't breathe because my chest was just constricted and tight all the time. I was getting terrible headaches. And I just felt, and I remember telling you this in my discovery call, I remember using the words, I said, Julie, I feel like I'm physically dying. It just felt like my body was manifesting all of this dis-ease because I was just spinning my wheels and in pure survival mode 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Mm-hmm. It was just unbelievable. I was binge eating because I was just so stressed all the time. And that put me on a roller coaster with my weight. And that further fueled feelings of self-loathing and confidence. So how do you lead an organization? How do you lead your family when you're struggling with issues of self-loathing, right? And you have no self-confidence, and it takes all the energy in the world just to muster the energy to fake it, right? And so that's what I just felt completely depleted.
Let's talk about the faking it, please. Thank you so much for painting that picture. Because I think that what you're saying is that you had reached a certain, a tremendous level of outer success, right? And I'm, doing air quotes around that, because you are, for all intents and purposes, you're very successful. Would anyone have guessed, if they saw you who didn't really know you, what you were experiencing?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I remember there were days when I would pull into the parking lot at work and I would be weeping in my car, knowing that I had to go into the office and lead an organization and put all of my stuff away for the day. The worry over my daughter's health, the worry over legal cases, the worry over traveling and being away from them all the time. And I'd have to walk through the door and be completely composed and totally with it and together. And it just took all of my energy to go in there and continue to do that. And now that's my job, and I love to do my job, but I was destroying myself in the process because I had no tools to properly create a life by design that was mine, right?
Yeah. So we're going to pin that, both tools and creating a life by design that's yours. We're going to pin both of those ideas and we're going to loop back to them. But before we do that, I really just want to highlight what you said, that on the inside, there was a level of imposter syndrome, of not feeling adequate, of some self-loathing, of compulsive, overeating, emotional eating, not feeling confident in who you were, not feeling present for your kids. There was all this stuff stacked on, right? And on the outside, you would walk into the office, you would be in tears before you walked into the office, and then you'd walk into the office and have to put on that pretend face. So it was a deep compartmentalization. You weren't able to bring all of yourself to your job, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Yeah. So we know that this happens and is true for high achieving, successful women, because, obviously you were in a group with a lot of other women. Did it surprise you when you were in the program with some of the other amazing women that you went through the program with, that you weren't the only person feeling this?
I was shocked because, quite frankly, as women, part of what we do all the time without even realizing it is we are constantly comparing ourselves to each other, right? And so, I literally will walk into any situation and I'm assessing the scenario and I'm looking around at, women in my industry or women I encounter along my day. And I'm like, God, she has her stuff together. She's amazing. Why can't I be like that? And so you torture yourself comparing yourself. And when I joined the program, I found all of these women who were incredibly accomplished women doing amazing things with their lives, but who all had this same feeling of being just completely overwhelmed, stuck on a never-ending roller coaster, and hate themselves the way, which is just so counterproductive and so toxic, right? And so it was just an incredibly enlightening experience to see collectively as women, overachieving type A women, that we are all struggling with similar issues. So for us to learn how to address those together in a safe environment of like-minded people it was one of the most precious gifts I've ever been given.
Oh, thank you for saying that. And you were in the program with such an incredible group of women, right? We have, there's always a different rolling group of women. And Laurie, you added so much when you were there because you showed up every week, you did the work, etc. Part of what we're doing in the program is teaching you new tools, right? I like that you said, these are really accomplished. Like, I'm an accomplished woman. I was with a bunch of other accomplished women who were doing amazing things in their life, but were running on a hamster wheel, who were feeling overwhelmed, who weren't enjoying their lives, who weren't confident in themselves. I want to talk to you a little bit about what it's like now, and then I want to talk to you about what's shifted. Okay, so we often talk about, like, this isn't about tying a pretty red bow around things, right? But we are talking about, like, who are you now versus who you were. When did you graduate from the program? Tell everybody.
I graduated January 3rd, 2020.
Yeah. So when we're filming this and recording this, 8-ish months ago. So what's true for you now compared to who you were then? We'll kind of talk about some of the steps you took to get there.
This was just an incredible process of unfolding, right? And you and I have talked about this many times, and I never stray from this concept of you willingly allow your former self to die. It is a rebirthing process that we go through as a part of this program. And by rebirthing, it's almost being reborn. It is being reborn as to who you were always all along, but you had lost throughout the process of life, and all the different ways that you've been conditioned, and all of the different false stories that we've written, and false narratives that we believe, and lies that have become what we have internalized as our reality. And that process is really going back and really addressing and acknowledging our initial wound, to learn where it was that we first lost ourselves, and where we started to write this new story that has absolutely no validity whatsoever, but it undermines everything that we do, and it disempowers us, right? And so for me, that was an enormous process of rediscovering my little inner child that I had abandoned so long ago. It was connecting with my pain, which I did not realize how deep it went. And I did not realize how my pain had woven stories into my everyday that just completely rendered me powerless in taking control and owning me. So it was a long process of learning how to address and discover those pieces, acknowledge them, own them, and take them now along the way with me, so that they don't end up stealing the show, right? Now I run the show, but they come with me, and I acknowledge them and I listen to them, because they certainly have a voice and they need to be heard. We learn how to create boundaries. I'd never had boundaries. I never knew how to say no before this program, That's huge. Right. And learning how to view everything within the scope of what your real life priorities are, And yes, paying the bills are important. And yes, your job is important. But we have other priorities too that make us multidimensional and allow us to be multidimensional. And I was completely unidimensional for a very long time. So it's a process of really going through all of that, which is truly life changing. And I'm not done. I'm in your circle program now, as you know, because I need to continue to do the work. It's never an ending process. We just learn new tools along the way to get better and better and more effective and, quite frankly, happier.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that you just shared so much wisdom, and I'm going to touch on a few of the things that you said, because you just said a bunch of really powerful stuff that I want to make sure everybody hears. If you were, I mean, this is a very like a linear question, but let's just play with it. If you were to rank your happiness, because you just said the word happiness, I'm learning tools to really reclaim my happiness, be happy. If you were to scale your happiness before, kind of when you found us, which is like usually the last house on the block for most people, right? It takes a lot. I always say that the women who come to me are usually the type of women who have such a high tolerance for pain that in order to get to the point where they're like, I am ready for another way, your back has to be against the wall and your hair has to be on fire, right? 100% you said, right? In order to get to that point. So if you were to just be like, okay, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super happy, 1 being completely depressed, where were you when you found us?
Oh, I was at a 1, clearly. I mean,
like,
really struggling. I was done. I was completely done. I had no idea how to pick myself up, just none. Mm-hmm. And now, it's kind of interesting because the circumstances surrounding me, right, have not changed. I'm still navigating a crazy job. I'm still navigating a very challenging health situation for my daughter. I still have 2 legal cases I'm managing. None of that's changed, but yet that I'm not caught up in the swirl anymore, right? I can sit within it, but I sit within it from a place of awareness that these things are no longer me, right? They're happening around me. And so my happiness is something that I have total control over. And so right now I'd probably say I'm sitting at a good 8. And that doesn't mean that it's, I would never say I'm at a 10, I don't think, but, it's because even though I'm still struggling with practicing everything, I know that I own it, and I have the power. And so that to me is the happiness, right? Because it's my happiness to own. It's not my company's, it's not my parents, it's not my a relationship partner, it's not my children, it's me, right? And that is true happiness.
That's huge. And that is so different than being swirled around. So many of our graduates, you included, often say, like, thank goodness, right? They have these tool sets and skills during the time that we're living in right now, right? Because with what's going on right now, if you don't have skills and tools and a different toolkit, we will be just whipped around by the current state of the world. So what you're saying is that your job hasn't changed. Your daughter's still going through some intense things, like you are mothering, you're dealing with multiple layers of stuff, challenges, but the power is that you're now able to confront them, right? And not be collapsed underneath the pressure of them. And that's huge.
It is huge.
Right. That's huge.
It's absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge. And I've found ways that, even though I know, I have passions that are unfulfilled. I mean, I am like my life dream is to be a writer. And while I know I'm not in a position to sit down and write the next great American novel, because that's just not the season of life that I'm in, I am finding ways to engage in my passion every day, even if it's for 15 minutes, and that fills my soul. Right? I can tap into the creative things that are meaningful for me, and I can find ways to weave them into my life, even though it's not my profession right now. It's a passion. And if I can honor that part of myself in some way, that's enormous. It's enormous.
And That's such a shift from where you were, let's say, a year ago, right? When I talked to you for the first time, because there was a part of you, like you said a moment ago, you were like, I was living such a one-dimensional life or a unidimensional life. And that's what often happens with the women who come to us. They forget who they are beyond their jobs, their worth, their identity, everything starts to get wrapped up into work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I hear you saying is like part of the journey that you went on is to like really reclaim those parts of you, right? I mean, that's what you were mentioning earlier is like, wow, the world kind of derailed me in a way. And I didn't even realize how much I had forgotten who I was. But deep down, I knew who I was. And we just had to unlock those pieces in you, unlock those passions, unlock the discarded parts, unlock who you really are. Right. And then I love that you stacked on. And then, yes, we talk about your priorities and you really learn to lens life through those things, and then boundaries and saying no and stepping into your power. And now this commitment to your purpose, even if your daily job, even if the way you pay the bills right now isn't that, you are more pointed towards that than you have been in your adult life. There's like a rediscovery of you.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
When you said earlier, kind of create life by design, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's a pretty simple meaning for me, which is simply that life is not happening to me, right? I'm not a victim of life's circumstances. Life is always happening around all of us. That never changes. Right? But life is my responsibility, and I have 100% responsibility for creating and manifesting what I want. So if I can purposefully create my day, and that means managing my schedule, that means lensing everything through my priorities, that means owning my calendar and not letting my calendar own me or other people own my calendar. It means setting aside time for things that fill me up and make me feel human, make me feel like a woman. You know, that is creating my life by design. I have a dream wheel now that I learned how to create in your program. And I love every quarter revisiting my dream wheel. And it's amazing to me that when I revisit it, I'm almost shocked that, oh my gosh, I actually did that. And oh my gosh, this actually happened because I was diligent about claiming that I want this. And I have no idea how it's going to happen. I don't need to know the how. But I've put it out there, and I'm going to find ways to at least take some kind of action, no matter how small, towards that. Ultimately, you just start getting propelled in that direction. And things that you once thought were impossible actually become your reality, right? It's huge.
I love that. I was actually saying it to the women who are in the program right now. I was saying it to them on our last week's call. I was saying, look, the things eventually what's going to happen for you is the life that you start living, you're going to start living that. And you're going to look back and be like, oh my God, this was a pipe dream just a few months ago, just a year ago. I never could have imagined that the life that I would be living, the life that you eventually live was a dream to the you a year ago. Right. And that's true. Right. That's true.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to know, I want to do a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. So one of them is like, we do some pretty revolutionary things in the program, right? One of the things, we do a lot of different things, right? It's based on a lot of different modalities. Some of the things seem a little batshit crazy to a lot of our like very, left brain women. What was the wackiest thing maybe that I told you to do? Or the thing that maybe you resisted doing that you needed to do that really made a difference for you inside of the program?
Well, gosh, there were a lot of things that felt uncomfortable, I think for me, probably the most uncomfortable for me was getting to know my inner child. I really resisted listening to her, and I really resisted the messages that she had to share, because they're painful messages sometimes. They're sobering messages, right? And I remember first describing her using some not so nice words. I mean, I used 4-letter words to describe her. And now I almost feel like she's next to me all throughout my day. Now she's like my favorite little person on the planet, because I've actually given her a voice, and I use what she has to tell me in ways that I never could have imagined a crotchety, crankety little, 6-year-old could do. And that's a really, it sounds silly, to befriend your child and to name her and to carry her around in your pocket every day. And that just to me was obscene at first. But, now I can't imagine my life without her, right?
How has it impacted the way you move through the world, either as a mom or even in your career?
I think of her all day, every day, because I realize that we all have this wounded little child, right? And so everything that we do is somehow infused with those thoughts and those wounds. As a mother, I think about it all the time now, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be the moment when their inner child is born and they've got this wound? And so I'm trying to, be aware of that. But it makes me give a new perspective as a parent to just understanding that child perspective. But more importantly, as a mom, she's taught me how to play. And I was terrible. I love to play, but I was at it because I had a to-do list. And without my to-do list, if I wasn't making progress on my to-do list, I was failing. But what I didn't realize was that by not playing and by not honoring my inner child, I was not honoring my children. And so I've learned to play with them. As a leader in my organization, it's also impacted my ability to lead from a more with a greater sense of empathy, right? And I think that my team can feel that in the way that we navigate our conversations about prioritization and about, listening to their holistic perspective. There's just a lot of ways that what seems like a silly little exercise in the beginning can completely change the way that you navigate your day. It's very interesting, really interesting.
Well, and I love what you're saying is that, ultimately, each step that we do in this program is guiding you to step into more contribution in the world. Because the Laurie that came to us a year ago was so burnt out and exhausted, she wasn't really contributing in her capacity.
No.
And what I hear you saying now is that, in turn, you are now a more playful mother, a more present mother. Mm-hmm. You were able to lead with more empathy, grace, patience, compassion.
Yeah.
And one of the things we often say in this program is that professional development always starts with personal development, right?
Yeah.
If there was a woman, let's say like you, that you could talk to right now, who were listening, who was feeling like you were at the end of the rope, kind of crushed by the weight of things, not really sure which way to go, what would you want her to know?
I'd want her to know that there is absolutely a light, right? And, when I first came to this program, the way that I described myself was I had lost all my color. Everything was gray. Everything was gray. And I felt so depleted and so lacking of my spirit and my energy and my color. And I couldn't see light anywhere as hard as I tried. And I remember you telling me that we would find the color again, right? And that was just enough for me, right, to take the leap of faith. And it was, the first few weeks are always the hardest because there's resistance, because you don't want to just go there. It's so painful, right? And the resentment is so big, and the fear and the pain. But the color that comes into your life and the energy and the positivity is just so brilliant when you actually do the work, right? it's the most life-changing experience. And I've taken a million programs, a million. I've spent so much money on personal and professional development, it's ridiculous. But this was the absolute best investment I have ever made in myself. And I just can't say enough about what an impact it has made on me and my life and my children and my family. It's just a gift.
Oh, babe. That is so beautiful to witness you and hear you and watch this. Probably about this time last year that we had our first call, that we had our breakthrough call together. And I think it's amazing for those who are watching but don't know this or who are listening. Laurie and I both happen to be wearing the color white, not on purpose. We're both wearing the color white. And white actually contains all of the colors in the spectrum of colors. And so how incredibly appropriate, right, for us to end on this piece of like you getting your color back and you just happen to be wearing white and I just happen to be wearing white, which is a color that contains all of the colors, which I think is such a beautiful metaphor for who you are and the life that you've reclaimed for yourself, babe. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. And for all of you who are listening and watching, Laurie's journey started when she booked a breakthrough call with us, right? I mean, I remember it so clearly. Every single woman who comes through our program books a breakthrough call. And that's the first stop. What we'll do on that call is we'll talk to you for about 45 minutes about what is going on in your life. If we can help you, we'll tell you how we can do that with you. We'll make you a plan to do it. If we're not the right ones to help you, we're going to tell you that too. It's a totally free complimentary discovery call. You'll talk to me or one of the amazing coaches on our team. And that's the way that you can start. So go to juliesantiago.com/talk. You can get on their calendar in the next few days. Okay. Laurie, is there one final thing? There may not be. You've said so many beautiful things. You've shared so much wisdom, but is there anything that you'd like to end on and share with anybody watching?
Just let go of the fear and do it, because it will be the best decision that you will make.
Thank you, babe. I am so grateful for your life. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story and your journey, right? From feeling gray, flat, like life was one layered, to this multi-dimensional, multicolored goddess that sits in front of me right now. So honoring you so deeply. Thank you for being here. And for all of you watching and listening, take the first step, right? That's all it takes. There's literally nothing to lose by booking a call. And if we can support you, we'll tell you how. And I look forward to talking to you. Laurie, love you oh so much. I'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you all for joining us. Bye.